Velkommen to fulfilling this belly sting. A show dedicated to aligning a journey to a better mental health using the understandings of the ancient Norse. Join us each weekday morning at 7 a.m. Alaska time. Someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them. Like that.
God, Morgan, and happy Wotan's Day to you. Today we celebrate and embrace the quest for experiences and wisdom as taught by all the sagas about Odin. Before we get started today, as always, I want to say thank you to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed. If you haven't had a chance yet, please do so. You can do so at TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all of our audio platforms, wherever moves you. As always, you can check us out, as well as many others, on the new streaming channel of New Reality TV. newrealitytv.com is a plethora of perspectives of our spiritual journey that can give us intellect and guidance and hopefully that peace of mind that we all need for a better mental space. For you who may be interested in donating to our cause, I would highly appreciate it, as all of the donations that we receive, we use to travel throughout the country to visit with individuals and to teach and to guide and to provide wisdom. We also use it to provide this technical platform at which to deliver these morning teachings. So please, if you have a few extra coins, by all means, hit up our tip jar. The links are located throughout the presentation here, so check those out as well. For you who may be interested in knowing more about me, my message, my teachings, my shows, and certainly my life coaching service, by all means, check out norsewhispers.com/coaching. There you can find out all the information about my life coaching service, and maybe we can connect and certainly provide a different perspective for those struggles that you may be having. Today we're talking about Odin. Well, we're talking about Wotan, which is where Wednesday really comes from. And Wotan, of course, being the earlier recognition of Odin. Wotan was recognized in the early Germanic tribes, whereas Odin is kind of more associated with the Norse. After many of these tribes would go ahead and cross the Elbe River there in northern Germany into what is today known as the Jutland of Denmark. And of course, this is where my ancestors come from, is the Jutland of Denmark, far north there in Bjergby. Today we're talking about wisdom, and we've mentioned before that wisdom is simply the culmination of having intellect and knowledge, and then connecting it in a relatable way using our life's experiences. Life's experiences can come in the first hand, as we technically experience it. It can come in the second hand, as others are telling us of their experiences. And thirdly, it can come from our ancestors who pass it along in their spiritual energy to us every minute of every day. Some of these experiences we may obtain while sleeping, and we will call them dreams. Dreams are simply that. They're simply a connection between our memories and our spiritual mind now providing sensory input, right? So when we're awake and we're cognizant and we're moving around the world, our consciousness is slid forward to connect the physical brain and memories together. So our sensory input, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, fingertips, are all feeding into this part of our brain that is kind of where our focus is. This then goes through a process of bringing into emotional energy and other pieces before being stored in memory. Then, when we decide to take an evening's rest and we drift off to sleep, our consciousness releases. It kind of falls back a little bit. And when it does, it then becomes in contact with our spiritual self or our spiritual mind and our memories. Now, we don't have to be technically asleep to reach into the dream realm. Sometimes we may have daydreams. We may be just sitting around. All of a sudden you think of these off-the-wall things and you're like, where's that? Well, essentially what's happened is our consciousness is an act. It's a conscious or a focused act of keeping that consciousness forward over the spiritual brain. And during these daydreams, or should we become unconscious for some reason, we may have fallen, we may have be going in for surgery or whatever, and they put us under. All of these simply are a matter of pulling the consciousness back. We're releasing that consciousness. We're no longer holding it forward. So it kind of slides back. And when it slides back, again, as I've mentioned before, we kind of have this visualization that my ancestors have given me, where we have three parts of the brain. The forward part of the brain, of course, is the physical consciousness that we deal with every day. We're absorbing sensory input all around us. We're processing that through our emotional states, through our values, through our belief systems, to ultimately arrive in our memories. And then daydreams, or we become unconscious for some reason, or we fall asleep, the consciousness, the pull to keep it forward is released, and that consciousness slides back over now memories and the spiritual part of our brain. The spiritual part of ourself is constantly connected, is always part of the spiritual realm. So think of it in much the same way that my ancestors have described it to me, is think of it like an atom. For those of you who are not familiar with the atomic structure, atoms have three parts to them. These three parts are really representative of our life, of our entire existence. Each atom contains three parts: a proton, neutrons, and electrons. These three parts work in conjunction to keep atoms healthy. So the protons and the neutrons are joined together. They form this thing we call the nucleus. My ancestors have revealed to me that this simply is very much like our physical life. So we have both our physical existence, sensory input, and our our emotional contributions to that physical life. So those two are very important. our emotions drive our physical existence. So those two are joined, much like the protons and the neutrons joined together. And then you have this other part of our existence, which is a big part, and that's the floating electron. The floating electron represents our spiritual self. All part and parcel, all part of the same atom, taking up the same, here on the physical realm, takes up the same time, space, right? So within each of us, we have a massive collection of atoms that make us who we are. That atomic structure is constantly being manipulated to some extent as we inhabit, word doesn't sound right. But anyway, as we occupy both space in the physical realm and in the spiritual realm at the same time. Our spiritual self, as I mentioned, is constantly in communication with the entirety of what is the spiritual realm. That realm out there that's not bound by time or space or any other rules, gravity. None of those rules apply. Near, far, up, down, none of that applies. In the spiritual realm, individuals, entities, are simply working or living or existing with memories of existence, both firsthand and secondhand. So they float around and do their existence of learning and growing and sharing and being harmonious simply on memories that they have and memories that others have given them. So this entity that we have within each of us has a fairly important part in keeping us connected to that realm. We, our physical selves, can't exist without a spiritual connection, without this spiritual self being bonded to us. So we're spiritual entities at our core. No doubt about it. And whether we believe in religion or not is absolutely irrelevant. What's relevant is that we are existing for the sole purpose of learning how to control emotions. Emotions within our everyday existence. A lot of people tell me, that guy's emotional. Well, I'm here. They are not. The energy that moves us through the trajectory that's plotted in our existence, particularly our physical existence, for second or third hand experiences. No loved to feel hated, anything, unless we have the ability to put some that. Now, there are spiritual do not have this physical. So when an example, they can kind of look at poetry or some book or some. It's very provide context to it. Why? Because love is like, right? So for them, invisible thing that's out there that, we can write about it, we can talk about it, but until you felt it yourself and have that experience in the mind, it just the reason for our context for our emotional connections between our experiences. So very much like we would create wisdom with, as a general rule, is simply connecting, using relatable experiences, connecting stacks of intellect, right? So I always kind of associate wisdom like an auto mechanic, right? Is that you have somebody who does, or some mechanic who takes care of the tires, another person who may take care of engine oil or engines, and another person that takes care of the interior and the fabrics and all of that. Another person takes care of the body. Then you have, when they all get into a singular room, we're now interrelating all of these different intellects together to make this thing called wisdom. Well, the same thing's going to apply when we're seeking emotional wisdom. So we've got these intellects about our emotions, what we should feel, what they felt, what this other person's experience was. We have all these experiences, or these intellect columns. And what we're doing here in the physical realm is we're experiencing them. We're feeling what it feels like to be frustrated, to be misunderstood, to be ostracized, to be included, to feel loved, to feel brotherly, to feel all of these different emotions. We're experiencing the physical realm. Now, what happens in the physical realm is, as you may or may not know, we have this really exciting part of being human, and that is chemistry. When we experience something in the physical realm and we absorb this experience, whatever it is, that experience is then passed through what my ancestors recognized as our heart. Our heart then takes our values, our virtues, and all of the things, our belief systems, and attaches energy to this experience. These energies are now created using something the spiritual realm doesn't have, and that is, we have the heart, and the heart releases hormones into the bloodstream. These hormones then kind of circle around and ultimately wind up back in the brain, where the brain now recognizes this chemical composition, whatever it looks like, as a particular emotion. So we've written our recipe card throughout our lifetime of experiences that we've had, and as we've watched our role models, those with authority, create these examples of what emotion looks like. When that chemical composition comes up for us, our biochemistry is created and then translated again back to energy. We know how to convert this based on our previous experience. When we've seen our parents cry, or we've seen our parents love, or we've seen our parents angry, all of these things are going to create this dance card. Now, that dance card will then extend later to include peers and significant others and others in the community. And ultimately, we may open ourselves up even further to be more empathic to everyone. And so we see different interactions in our community, in our society, and we kind of associate a feeling on our dance card. So this recipe card that we have, dance card, whatever, says, hey, if I see this chemical composition, this is how I feel. And then it provides energy to the reconversion when we're converting biochemistry back into bioelectricity that the brain can now use to store as a memory. Super important that we recognize that this energy that's being created and that we have the potential of managing it. Remember, we can actively manage all the energies within our minds. We are solely the ones in charge. So if we don't want to feel a particular way, we can deny that energy and say, nope, not going there. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be frustrated. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be sad. I want to be happy. I want to be loved. And we can do that. Talk about that here in a minute. But ultimately, that's the idea of existence, of a physical existence, is to use this biological life form that we've inhabited to create hormones, which creates a biochemistry, which now relates or can interrelate between two emotions as to how they interact. This is called emotional wisdom, and is as equally important as our intellectual wisdom. All right. Now, when we have these two wisdoms now pulling in the same direction, now we're starting to really absorb the lessons of a physical existence. Super important. This is also more or less the idea as we maintain and we actively manage these two wisdoms and their interrelativity. As we actively manage them, what we're going to find is our physical existence, obtains a better mental space, a better way of processing, a better way of understanding, but more importantly, a better way of consciously directing our emotional path. So, giving us a much better mental health. So, our mental health is based on simply taking active control particularly over the emotional influences that may alter our perception of reality. Now, that's a big statement. What does that mean? Well, we've proven scientifically throughout the last year or so. Actually, before I get into that, I want to take a quick break. I need to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about how we can kind of direct this and what it means for us to be actively in charge. So let me take a real quick break and we'll be right back after this short message.
In the air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
newrealitytv.com.
Welcome back, and thanks for taking that quick break with us. When we left, we were talking about emotions, we were talking about the consciousness and how our physical existence has kind of given us this pathway moving forward. But more importantly, we've also uncovered this idea of obtaining and maintaining control over those energies to make sure that we're processing experiences in such a way that it's beneficial to us and to those around us. My ancestors have described the thought process, and stay tuned. We are having coming soon, hopefully, will be the new book, which will hopefully come out within the next year or so. Going to get to the publisher here pretty soon. And the next book kind of outlines this very clearly as to how all of these emotions play a very integral role in our mental health, whether we decide to acknowledge them or not, right? So all of these things, when we talk about spirituality and we talk about the spiritual energy, we talk about ancestral energy and all of those influences in our everyday life, are much the same way as emotional energy, which simply says whether you decide to subscribe to it consciously or not doesn't really matter as much as recognizing that it's happening, whether you choose to believe it or not. All right. And so emotions are the same way, whether we decide to subscribe to them, whether we decide to let them run our lives or take active control of them is our choice. We have that choice, and we can make that choice anytime we desire. So, thinking about exercises in emotional management is some of the things that we need to address is obviously studies have shown when we look at things, when we experience them here in the physical realm, we look through rose-colored glasses. If we're negative, those rose-colored glasses are going to be more of a charcoal, and they have the potential to eliminate things from our view. We can simply overlook them. We'll do that because our mood is set in that direction, and our mood then dictates how these images that are coming into our eyes or sounds coming into our ears, how they're actually converted to bioelectricity in the body. This filter is that first leg on a journey, and that filter you set every morning. We get up and it's a beautiful day outside. We've had a beautiful rest. Maybe you're lucky enough to be sleeping next to your soulmate. Life is wonderful. And so that sets the mood. So your emotional filters behind sensory input, your emotional filter is set now to look for those things that bring us joy, because it's going to process the images that are coming into sensory input, sounds, tastes, smells, everything is going to be processed in such a way that supports that emotional state. So if we're in a good mood, we're going to see beautiful things. If we're in a bad mood, we're not going to see those beautiful things. And we can technically, by using that filter, recognizing that filter, we can actually eliminate things from our view. Seriously, we can actually eliminate them completely. We don't see ugliness and division and separation and segregation. We don't see all of that. We can look past it when we set that filter. Sure, it's still there if you want to look for it. If you're actively seeking it, it'll still be there. But if we set our mind otherwise, we look past it. And so a lot of people say, well, how can you not recognize skin color as an example to me? And I tell them, why? Because to me, it has no value. It's not important. It doesn't nearly gauge a human being. Neither does gender. Gender doesn't mean anything until we get to procreation. They're just people. No reason to segregate or divide or hate someone just because they're different. We're different. We're different from them. Put the shoe on the other foot for a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. They're different. No, you're different. And different is okay. This is why the gods have made multiple flowers. They've made multiple seasons. Different is okay. Different is perfect, matter of fact, because it gives us different experiences. It gives us different interpretation of those experiences. It's what makes life worth living. It's all part and parcel of this thing we call reality. So, today as we go about our day and we're thinking about Odin and certainly even further back in the Germanic tribes where we're looking at Odin, and we're looking at his quest for wisdom, but wisdom doesn't only include that of intellect, of intellectual wisdom. It also includes emotional wisdom. And emotional wisdom is simply the interrelationship between multiple emotions, right? So we have love and we have comfort and we have peace and we have harmony. How do all of those interact with each other to provide us with some benefit in this lifetime? Remember, you're here to learn about emotions. We go all the way back to our first discussion today, and we can talk about the atomic structure where the protons are our physical existence, right? It's our sensory input. It's experiencing reality. Then we go to the neutrons, and the neutrons are simply those emotions and the way emotions alter that sensory input. to make our physical existence. Then, outside of that, bundled around what we call the nucleus within the atomic structure, is the electron. And the electron represents the spiritual realm. And so it's all part of the same time and space we call an atom. Right? So living life consciously, directing our mind, keeping those visions and those experiences that we have in this life focused on learning from them and growing from them. This is really what life is about. We're about learning emotions and how those emotions are going to affect the way we interpret reality. The benefit is you're learning at the same time you're teaching, because your perspective is different. It's different than anyone else's. So as you experience some event in your life, the gods are looking through this spiritual realm, and they're seeing where your spiritual self is broadcasting those memories. And so they're gaining that perspective of a particular event. So if everyone there is accumulating this event, we're getting to see the whole event and what it can mean. So this really brings a better understanding. All right. So use today to think about your quest for both intellectual wisdom and emotional wisdom. They're both equally important in our existence. Think about how the emotional control that you have can be used to help you to better see the reality around you. Remember, controlling your emotions and learning to actively feel, actively embrace the emotional reach is really what this physical life is all about. So, when you're meditating today, when you're using some of that intrinsic reflection, ponder that for a minute. Just ponder what emotions you have and how are they affecting the way you see reality. My friends, I will see you again this evening where we will talk about more about the thought process and how it works. We're going to continue our series of the thought process. And so we're going to we're taking them out of order, but then ultimately we'll bring them back and we'll put them back in order for you so that you can understand what my ancestors have explained to me as the way we experience reality and how we are in charge of directing that to our memories that then can be shared with the spiritual realm. So join us tonight. 6:30 Alaska time. We'll be here for Sporgsmall. And until then, my friends, I wish you the very best Wootens Day, and we look forward to seeing you this evening and again tomorrow. Love and light, my friends.
I'm watching for Felina's Belly Snake, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska Ulfhafnar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for joining us today.